Hi there, welcome back to the YouTube channel. I'm back again and it's time for another one of the legendary creatures from the Final Fantasy set that I've turned into a commander deck. And today it is the one and only Choco, Seeker of Paradise. 1 green, white and blue for a 3/5 legendary bird. That has the ability that whenever one or more birds you control attack, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may put one of them in your hand, then put any number of land cards from among them onto the battlefield tapped, and the rest into your graveyard. And it has landfall. Choco gets +1/+0 to the end of turn. Now, I'm going to be honest. For any of you who looked at the deck list before I recorded this video, I've changed it significantly since then. And I don't think it's still quite there to how I want it to be yet either. So I'm going to talk through this deck, then I'm going to talk about a potential future deck that I'm thinking about for Choco. So Choco's probably going to have 2 videos. It's going to be the first legendary creature I've done for a while where it has 2 videos that are just an update. But I think there's 2 distinct builds of Choco, and this is kind of like the general one you want to start with, I think. So here we go. This is what today's deck really does look like. So, starting at the beginning, we just have 1 Planeswalker in the deck, and we have Serra the Benevolent. Creature you control with flying gets +1/+1 until the end of turn. The +2 ability, and then hopefully you'll be able to keep her alive long enough that you can go -6 on the next turn when you get there, because you really do like the idea of the emblem coming out. If you would reduce, if a creature you if you control a creature, damage that would reduce your life total to less than 1 reduces it to 1 instead. Basically, you become virtually unkillable as long as you can keep one of your creatures in play, which is pretty good from my point of view. Anyway, creatures. Now, as I said, because we were looking at birds, this Chocobo's got a lot of birds in it. Starting with Birds of Paradise and the Gilded Goose for the ramp side of things. Then the 1-drop Healer's Hawk, because we like a little bit of flying and lifelink. From there, we have some ramp with the Noble Hierarch. The Exalted kind of works quite nicely with the Healer's Hawk, and sometimes you want to get in for that 1 point of damage with your Birds of Paradise on turn 2, maybe, if you haven't got anything else to do, or your Gilded Goose on turn 2. But anyway, yeah, the Exalted works sometimes, but a lot of the time we can just ignore it and just use it as a ramp card. Sazar's Chocobo just gets bigger when we drop a land into play, and this first of the landfall payoffs we're going to have in the deck, outside of Choco itself. Ambrosia, White Feather. Now, White Heart, sorry. Now, you're probably wondering why this is here. It hasn't got flying, but it is a bird and it does have the landfall. But occasionally you do want to save one of your permanents from dying, and having this flash in and bouncing that permanent to our hand is sometimes very helpful. Ice Feather Avon's here just so we can bounce someone else's creature, or we can play it as a morph and then turn it face up for 1 green and a blue to get a bounce effect on the go, or we can just play it for a green and a blue as a 2/2 flyer, whatever you feel you need at the time. Owl Familiar, when it enters, we just get to loot, and then Sage Owl lets us look at the top 4 cards of our library and put them back in any order. Watch of the Spheres is a no-brainer because of all the creatures we have with flying. And it makes them all cost 1 less to have, although it doesn't affect Choco, which is a little bit sad they didn't give Choco flying, but I know the reasons why. Before the Final Fantasy fans start shouting at me, I played a lot of Final Fantasy 7. I know they're just like big colourful ostriches, for want of a better phrase, so I get it. Imperium Eagle just pumps up all our flying creatures by +1/+1. Jubilant Sky Bonder means all our creatures with flying are a little bit harder to target because they cost 2 more, so it basically gives them sort of like semi-ward 2, I suppose, to a certain degree. But it's not really ward because you still have to pay the 2 a target, but you know what I mean. Plume Creed Mentor from the Bloomburrow set comes in as well. When this enters, another creature with flying enters, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control without flying, so you can make Choco bigger, which is quite nice. Then we've got the first one of the Saga creatures that I decided to play in this, Choco Mog, 2 and a white for a 3/3 summon legend enchantment creature Saga Bird Moggle, which is a bit of a mouthful. Basically means all other creatures, each turn it goes off, gets +1/+0 until the end turn. So it's quite a nice little pump for our smaller birds. Travelling Chocobo also makes an appearance as well. Top card of our library may play lands and cast spell spares from the top of our library, and then anything that causes something else to trigger, if it's a land or a bird, triggers an additional time. Warden of Evil Isle just cuts down the cost of all our creatures with flying. Isha Oja Dragon Speak, and I didn't actually change this one. I actually quite like the artwork on this compared to the original one, so unusually I'm not going to say, oh, I don't like this artwork, I'm not going to change it on Moxfield. And thank you, sorry, to Luxy, one of my mods on my stream while I'm thinking about it, because I've worked out how to do what we were talking about the other day. So thank you, I'm glad you pointed it out. Anyway, this has flying, and whenever opponent casts a spell, he gets put a +1/+1 counter on them. Curiosity Crafter just means we have no maximum hand size, and our creature tokens that we will be generating gets draw a card where they deal combat damage to a player. Emiria Angel just has the whole landfall trigger and gives us a 1/1 bird when we have a land hit play. Hermes, Overseer of Elpis, is also in from the new set. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you get a 1/1 bird creature token with flying and vigilance. And whenever you attack with one or more birds, we get to scry 2, which is quite nice, really. Going back to Lord of the Rings, Radagast, the Wizard of the Wilds, does turn up to give all our beasts and birds a ward 1, which does kind of help Choco quite a bit. And then whenever we cast a spell with 5 mana or mana value 5 or greater, we either get a 3/3 beast or 2/2 bird with flying. Obviously, we're going to be going for the birds a lot of the time. Roaming Throne helps us do our whole double up on our triggering things, and we do have a way of, making things birds, so it's coming, I promise. Salvation Swan just lets us, or another bird enters, exile up to 1 target creature we control without flying. Then we get to return it to its owner's control with a flying counter at the beginning of the next end step. So, that does help us get some of the other stuff flying as well. Sazar Katsroy also makes an appearance from Final Fantasy. Enters the battlefield, you get to search your life for a land or basic land or a bird and put it in our hand. And whenever it attacks, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, then double the number of +1/+1 counters on this creature. Sazi will be turning up in a lot of my +1/+1 decks when I'm playing green going forward in the future, because he's quite nice, even just for the land search side of things. Thieving Magpie, the traditional one, going back old school here. Whenever it deals combat damage to opponent, we draw a card. Bartz and Boko also coming in for Final Fantasy. Affinity for birds, so this should cost you 2 green most of the time for the 4/3. And when it enters, each other bird you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. Nice. Kanji, Sky Warden. When it attacks, attacking creatures with flying get +2/+0, and when it blocks, blocking creatures with flying get +0/+2 until the end of turn. Nice little bit of pump there. And this has flying and vigilance, so it can always do both for you if you need it to at push. Castrol, the Wind Crested. Whenever one or more birds you control deal combat damage to a player, we get to basically you may find a bird card. You may put a bird card from your hand or your graveyard onto the battlefield with a finality counter on it. Bit risky, but put a +1/+1 counter on each bird you control. Anyway, Shabraz, the Sky Shark is also in. Whenever you draw a card, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on Shabraz and gain a life. And it gives you a way of giving some of your humans who haven't got flying. Speakeasy Server for Streets of New Competitor enters the battlefield. We gain 1 life for each other creature we control. And then we had the Fat Chocobo in. Chapter 1, you get the 2/2 Chocobo token. Chapters 2, 3, and 4, everything gets trample until the end of turn, which is nice. Not as nice as Twanos the Toy Maker is in this deck, though. Whenever you cast a beast or bird creature spell, you may copy it. Except the copy is an artifact in addition to its other types. And I'm going to be really honest, I completely forgot about how good Twanos could be when you're looking at a sort of like typal deck, which this is technically is with all the birds in it. But yeah, we've got a few things coming up that aren't so birdy. Like Azzy, Tyrant of Gear Sage. We do want to abuse the second part of the ability, put any number of land cards from among the monsters of the battlefield tapped. So this kind of helps us rebuild our hand. Basically, we hopefully drop a few lands off Choco, and then we get to draw cards when those lands hit play because of the landfall trigger. Grain, the Windlord, is also in. Gives all other birds vigilance, and as long as we've drawn 2 or more cards this turn, it costs 2 less to cast. A little bit hard, well, unless we've got Choco on the go. That doesn't draw cards actually, so ignore that. So yeah, if we've got Azizi on the go, put it that way, and we're drawing a couple of extra cards off Azizi, then we get to have this come into play at 4 mana, which is pretty nice. Rampaging Battle is another one of the landfall payoffs that we're going to have for Choco, along with Avenger of Zendikar, which you'd expect. So, I'll come back to these. Sorceries, we have a few. Ramp with Farseek Geishore Greens is in because who doesn't want to have another little birdie Choco in very early, and then you can flash it back when you've got a load of spare mana later in the game. Nature's Law for that whole searching thing, along with 3 visits, Cultivate. And then Battle Screech is nice because it gives us 4 mana for 2 birdies, and then we can flash it back by tapping 3 untapped white creatures we control to get 2 more birdies, which is okay. And then Migratory Route. 5 mana for 4/1/1 birds is expensive. They have flying, I get that, so it's not the end of the world. But the basic land cycling occasionally does get you out of a bind with this deck, so hence why it's here. Just the one instance in the deck, Achroma's Will. For those who saw the original deck earlier, there was all Worldly Tutor in here and Enlightened Tutor. I've taken them out. Decided I didn't need them, so... but Achroma's Will stays because, hey, you know me. I like Alpha Strike, and this gives me a way to do it. Artifacts, Elixir of Immortality, Soul Ring, Arcane Signet, Herald's Horns. We can choose birds and make them cost even less. Patchwork Banner to pump all the birds up, and then one of the new cards from the core set for Final Fantasy, Chocobo Racetrack. Landfall, we get a 2/2 bird creature token that basically has, whenever a land enters, this token gets +1/+0 until the end of turn. Yeah, okay then, we like that. Enchantments, yeah, Favourable Wings, that's in, gonna pump all our flying creatures up even more. Ride the Shupuff, comes in from Final Fantasy as well. Whenever a land you control enters, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Don't forget, these lands will come into play when you attack, so that means you're going to pump some of your creatures up if this is in play when you attack, so that's quite cool. Same with Roaring Earth to a certain extent. This has been turned to landfall now as well. Whenever a land enters the battlefield under our control, +1/+1 counter on a creature or vehicle. Obviously, we're only playing creatures, there's no vehicles in this deck, so, you know, there you go. Had to play as a side quest of Raise the Chocobo, get the 2/2 bird token, and then at the beginning of your main phase, if you control 4 or more birds, you get to transform it into the Black Chocobo, which in Final Fantasy VII you really need a pair of to get the Gold Chocobo, if I remember how the breeding system worked correctly, to go and get the Knights of the Round from the little island. But yeah, when this enters, you get to go and search the land for library for a land card, put it onto battlefield, tap, then shuffle. Thank you. Right, this is where things go a little bit crepey. Arcane Adaptation. We are going to make all of our creatures birds when we see this, because then it's just true for creature cards you control and creature cards you own that aren't on the battlefield. So it means like all our things like Avengers Zendikar, Rampaging Balos, Azizi, Twanos, etc. all get to become birds, and that gives us a little bit of fun and games. A couple of sort of like doubling up on the token cards to help us out because we're making so many birdie tokens. Hopefully, we've got Anointed Procession, Felidar Retreat, Landfall triggers, 2/2 cat beasts, hopefully birds as well. So that's nice. And then I have gone with Moat just for a little bit of fun. Now, Moat I know is ridiculously expensive. You can see it's $1,100 at the moment. You can drop this. I have one on MTGO, and I thought it'd be quite fun to have some things that can't attack, stall up the ground board a little bit, and then only let the flyers attack. So, yeah, bit of an alternate win condition. But I understand if people want to drop this out of real life, unless you're lucky enough to own one from back in the day in Legends. Parallel Lives helps us again with all our token generation. And then Old School, Gravitational Shift. 3 and 2 blue. Creatures with flying get +2/+0. Everything else gets -2, -0. That's a nice way of slowing down the attacks coming at you. This is where Arcane Adaptation starts to have its effect. Kindred Discovery. Choose a creature type. Whenever a creature you control of the chosen types enter, you draw a card. Birds. Yep. Okay. Reflections of Lajara. Also choose birds. Whenever you cast a spell of the chosen type, copy that spell. Oh, look. Arcane Adaptation makes everything a bird. Yeah. Okay, then. That sounds good. And then another landfall payoff. We have the whole traditional Zendikar's Royal in the deck. When it enters the battlefield under your control, you get a 2/2 green elemental creature token that may be a bird. Well, hopefully it will be a bird. Let's put it that way. Lands, well, yep. Blue, white and green lands all the way through. Nothing particularly fancy. I will point out there is no Reliquary Tower in here. There's no Temple of the False God for a change. I left them at home. But we are playing 3 Tree City because that makes a lot of sense when you're playing a sort of like bird typal deck or any typal deck inside, really. And yeah, just for a change, I'm also not playing Cyclonic Rift. all this means for everyone else is that this is kind of a core deck at the moment. And that's how I quite want to start off my Choco adventure. Yeah. Didn't want to go too crazy with them and didn't want to make it too complicated, but this is a nice general starting point for Choco, sorry. Now, the deck I am thinking about doing, which will probably be coming up shortly, not this week, maybe next week sometime, is I want to go back and look at Choco a little bit deeper, because I think, in all honesty, although I've gone with the birds and a little bit of landfall, I think the landfall deck side of Choco might be a lot stronger. And by stronger, I mean seriously stronger. So I will be coming back to Choco. I'll probably try and get it done as a bonus video one week in the next couple of weeks. But so Choco will come back again, so keep your eyes open for that. I'm going to label this, you've probably seen on the video already, this is Choco Secret of Paradise, a general deck. And then I'll label the next one on the video titled the Landfall version, so you know when it comes out you can have a look at it. But for now, let me know down below in the comments if there's anything I've missed out, if there's any landfall cards you think I should include in the landfall deck. I've got quite a few ideas myself. But that's it for now. I hope you've hit the subscribe button. There's 697 of you here as I record this video today, so thank you everybody who subscribed recently. I really do appreciate it. And yeah, come back tomorrow where we still have something with blue in it, but not this colour pairing and band, I promise. Okay, but for now, take care. Thanks for watching. See you in tomorrow's video. Bye.